I know we are running several series at the same time, and that's because I have ADHD brain. I know, so bear with me. But this particular series is the presidents and black people. Yeah, as well as other people of color, because I have a bone to pick with Andrew Jackson and his relationship with our indigenous brothers and sisters. I have a bone to pick. So we'll talk about that when we get to Andrew Jackson. Yeah. Anyways, that's not why we're here today. No. We are here today to talk about Lyndon B Johnson. Yes, the man who got a Civil Rights Act passed, a Voting Rights Act passed, and did you know he was a racist? I know, they don't teach that in school. No. He was a racist, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about it. Before I proceed, two things. One, I sell these blankets. I do. There's a link in my bio. Follow the Linktree link. That's number one. Number two, don't forget, we have our lectures on lynching in America every Sunday, noon Central Standard Time. Okay, let's proceed. Lyndon B Johnson, or LBJ. Now, he was born in Stonewall, Texas in 1908 in a small farmhouse. He was born just when the southern states, including Texas, were rewriting their state constitutions to disenfranchise black people. He was born right at the beginning of Jim Crow. Jim Crow, white men in the South. Poor. Yes, he grew up poor and worked odd jobs and as a day laborer. Right. After graduating from high school and leaving college, he taught Mexican Americans at a segregated school, and he realized that higher education was closed to many due to poverty. And he said that he would never rest while the door to knowledge remained closed to any American, and he would remember this. LBJ would become a U.S. representative April 10th, 1937. During this time, Johnson faithfully towed the Southern line on civil rights. Between the 1930s and the early 1950s, he voted against anti-lynching legislation, opposed efforts to abolish the poll tax, gave white supremacist speeches, and denounced Harry S. Truman's civil rights programs. However, he did use his position to alleviate the suffering of all his constituents. While directing Texas National Youth Administration, he ensured that employment programs provided opportunities for black and white Texans, albeit on a segregated basis. He was, after all, a segregationist, white Democratic Texan, so that was self-explanatory. From the Smithsonian Magazine, Johnson espoused racist views throughout his life. Robert Parker, Johnson's black chauffeur and the first maitre d' of the Senate dining room, remembered the politician telling him, "I can't be too easy with you. I don't want to be called an N-word lover." One time, Johnson asked Parker if he would prefer to be called by his name instead of boy, N-word, or chief. When Parker answered in the affirmative, Johnson raged. "As long as you are black, and you're going to be black till the day you die, no one's going to call you by your name. So no matter what you are called, N-word, you just let it roll off your back like water, and you'll make it. Just pretend you're a piece of furniture." In 1949, he was elected to the Senate and was chosen as Senate Majority Whip in 1951. In 1952, he was chosen by his fellow Democrats as Senate Majority Leader. and he became the most junior senator ever elected to this position. His duties were to schedule legislation and help pass measures favored by the Democrats. Remember this. He was to schedule legislation and help pass measures favored by the Democrats. Now, remember, his first 20 years serving, he vetoed every civil rights bill that came his way. But in 1957, things change. He shepherded the Civil Rights Act of 1957, which he called the N-word bill, and the Civil Rights Act of 1960 to passage, the first civil rights bills to pass Congress since the Enforcement Acts and the Civil Rights Act of 1875 during Reconstruction. Now, this was unheard of since his successor, James O. Eastland, would make sure that no civil rights bill ever made it to the floor for a vote. Tomorrow, we'll talk about Lyndon B. Johnson's tenure as president. You're probably going to have to come look for me because TikTok is suppressing me. They're suppressing me hard right now.